Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin, I'm the Flutey Feminist, and each week I consult my Instagram followers to choose a video topic. Make sure to follow me at the Flutey Feminist so that you can also have your say on which topic you would like me to cover each week. And also make sure to check out my Instagram account because I have partnered with the app Tomplay for musicians. It's an awesome app. And they're giving you a free 30-day trial if you use my code. So please make sure to check out my Instagram page. All the details are in a post over there. So this week there was a tie between two topics actually. So I just decided to choose this one. So as you can tell by the title, I'm talking about being an emotional person. I have always been a very sensitive and emotional person. I've always been a crier. And it's always gone along with the fact that I'm very introverted. And when I was younger, I was extremely shy, like pathologically shy. So very often I felt uncomfortable and scared around people. So that would lead to a lot of emotions and to a lot of crying. There are so many stories I could tell you all about this. We'll get to them one day. But as a kid, thankfully, my family never told me to stop crying or made me feel ashamed about that, since they knew I was super shy. But as I got older, I felt like it became more and more of a bad thing. Obviously, in our society, boys and men bear the brunt of people telling them to stop crying and to not be emotional. But at the same time, I feel like anyone over the age of puberty is going to be told that crying is immature, or if you cry too much, if you get too emotional too easily, I think in general it's just seen as a negative thing for everyone. But it was never something I could help. Many of my emotions coincided with crying. Especially even nowadays, especially when I get angry or if I feel really passionately about something, it's very easy for me to cry and to feel the emotions really strongly. And I feel like all of my emotions get felt very strongly. So it's something that really informs my personality and my worldview and how I interact with other people. But I think it's also what makes me a really well-adjusted person. I feel like I'm an emotionally healthy individual. And the thing is, I'm not trying to say that if you're not a crier, that's unhealthy. It's more so if you suppress your emotions and suppress your need to cry on a regular basis, I think that's what's unhealthy. For me, I've never really suppressed my emotions. I physically can't. So that's why I'm saying that it feels like being emotional for me is a really healthy thing and makes me a healthy person mentally and maybe physically too. Whenever I cry, it feels super cathartic. This goes along with something called empathy or being an empath. I feel like people use this word kind of in a lot of different situations for a lot of different reasons. But there's actually a pretty specific definition of what an empath is. I'll let you know what it is in a second. I'm not trying to suggest that I necessarily 100% am one, but I identify very strongly with it. Anyways, so I'll link the definition below. But basically an empath is someone who understands the mental and emotional states of others in a way that defies conventional science and psychology. It kind of sounds like supernatural, which is why I'm saying I'm not necessarily saying I am one, but apart from the supernatural aspect that it kind of sounds like when it says that it defies science and psychology, I do feel like I'm someone that very easily understands, like they said, the mental and emotional states of other people. Obviously, that being said, I will never, ever, ever know what it feels like to be someone other than myself. I will never understand fully what it means to live in a black body, to be a trans person. I will never understand other people's identity because you can only know what that's like 100% if you are that identity. So I'm not trying to suggest that I can understand what it feels like to be Black, for example. Not at all. But what I can feel very deeply are just emotions that people are feeling. It's why for me, when I watch TV and movies, and to a lesser degree when I read books, that I cry so easily. Like, you have no idea. The second that I feel someone, that I feel like the emotions are a certain way, like, I will just cry. I was actually watching, a couple weeks ago, I was watching a YouTube video of Colleen Ballinger. I really love her. She was talking about kids with cancer, and she was talking, and as she was talking, her voice kind of caught, and I could tell she was about to cry, and I instantly started crying. Like, it's to that point. Like, I mean, I've been watching her for a long time, so I also, like, I'm in tune with her as much as I can be. I don't know her personally. But, like, I could see she was about to cry, and I just fully started crying. So that's what I mean. It's something that goes beyond sympathy. Sympathy is basically when you feel pity or sorrow for someone else's bad situation or emotion. So let's say someone is going through something difficult, you will feel bad for them, but you won't necessarily feel the emotion they're feeling. But for me, I feel like it's very, very easy for me to feel someone else's emotion. So you basically would, with empathy, you would just feel the emotions yourself instead of just sympathizing with the person. There's a special phenomenon. I haven't been to many funerals in my life, thankfully, but whenever I go to them, I very obviously cry. And the thing is, sometimes it's someone's funeral that I don't know necessarily personally or very close. It's, a relative of a friend or something like that. And so it feels so inappropriate for me to be crying because I didn't know the person. And like, I feel like no one else cries at funerals. Like, I don't understand. Like, I've been to a few in the last few years, and I feel like, apart from, like, let's say the immediate family, like, no one is crying, but I'm always crying. And this is one of the only situations where I feel like really embarrassed, or I feel like it's inappropriate, because I guess it gives off the impression that people assume that I probably knew the person, even though they probably know that I didn't. So it makes me feel very uncomfortable, but I really can't help it. There's been a few situations where I've had to tell the person that I knew, like, I'm really sorry I'm crying, like, because it just feels strange. Like, I know it's normal because it's a funeral, but when you didn't know the person that passed away, it just makes me feel weird. I wish I could control it, but I can't. Also, like, sometimes, this is more normal, I think, for everyone, but, like, sometimes if I'm reading headlines, like, if I'm scrolling on social media and I read headlines of things that are just too horrific for words, I decide not to process, because I decide to just read it and go, oh, okay, and I scroll past, because, I mean, again, I think this is, a normal thing for anyone, but for me, it's like, if I actually process that situation and, like, what happened to that person, I'll be destroyed, because I just feel those things so strongly. Something that's related to this whole topic is how emotions coincide with rationality. There's, a huge stereotype that still exists today that women are the most emotional people ever. They're too emotional to lead or be rational or make decisions, be in the government, stuff like that. And the thing is, like, I don't care if we are. Like, I don't think that's true. I think it's completely a social thing that we've been raised to allow girls to be more emotional than boys within certain contexts, etc. And then so as we all grow older, men tend to just suppress so many emotions that women just seem more emotional. So I think it's definitely, like, a sociological thing. It's not an inherent biological thing at all. But I wouldn't even care if it was, because the thing is, I think emotions do coexist with rationality. I don't think being an emotional person in the moment of being emotional makes you a less rational person. Emotions are valid bases of thought and of decision making. There are situations where you want to have a clear head when you're making a decision. Let's say you just lost someone you loved and you're going through all these crazy emotions and grief, and you have to make decisions. Of course, there are situations where it's better to take a second to calm down. I hate that word, but like to let your emotions just settle down a little bit, and then maybe you can make a really important decision. I understand that, but just in the sense of general everyday emotions that come up, like for example, if you start crying when debating a topic, like to me that's normal, and that doesn't mean that your like judgment is being clouded at all. I read somewhere that, I forget where, hopefully I can find it to link it below, but the person who gets emotional in a debate is the person who has more to lose on the topic. So for example, if I'm debating like women's rights with a cis man, who do you think's gonna get emotional? Like to me, it's perfectly normal and makes sense. And me being emotional talking about a certain topic that affects me or affects people that I know and care about doesn't mean that I have lost my ability to debate and to converse on the topic. Honestly, you have no idea how many times I have been so angry and screaming about a topic like that I'm debating with my family, most often with my dad, where I get so upset over a topic, and it's always like, why are you getting so upset? Because I care. I care, and when I care, my emotions come out. Anyways, but yeah, it's very easy for me to cry when I'm passionate about something. That's just something that, for me, goes hand in hand. So I use my empathy to inform conversations. Another thing I heard, again, I forget where I read it, is that if you're not upset, you're not paying attention, something like that. Like, our world is a dumpster fire. It always has been. So that hasn't changed. But if you're aware of like the struggles of marginalized people in our world, you would also probably be very emotional and passionate about these topics. So in a way, it's like I almost want to see people cry more when they're talking about things. Like, I want to see politicians cry. I want to see people have conversations and get emotional. And the thing is, like, it's totally fine if you're not a crier. It's not necessarily the act of crying that, like, so specifically. It's just that I think when we become adults, we're told to suppress so much. Like, crying in public is seen as childish, I think, unless, like, you know, you're just like with your friend in a coffee shop and like you're talking about a breakup or something. But it's like if you're in public, like addressing an audience of some sort and you're crying, it's like seen as like you're not composed. But like, our world is not something to be composed at. There are so many things, there are so many people that we have to fight for their lives to be safer and more equitable. So like, I don't understand why we have to be composed all the time. Like, I don't think that crying and being emotional should just be reserved to being when you're alone at home, you know? I think it really, you know, it's something that also shouldn't be abused. I don't think, for example, politicians should use it as a tactic either. But if it's genuine, like, I think we need to let our emotions out more often, especially men and boys, because they're specifically told even more harshly that reduces their manlyhood. Huge other topic, but anyways. I think that being emotional is my superpower. I think it allows me to have a really open mind for all sorts of issues that I don't know about, or people whose experiences are different from mine. It allows me to really understand others as much as I can. Again, I will never fully understand what it's like to be someone other than myself. But it also informs my creativity and my artistry on the flute. I've learned to really let my emotions out through playing and through the music that I'm engaging in. I think my emotional intelligence is heightened when I'm good at letting my emotions out. And I'm also really good at sensing other people's emotions, not even to the, like, also feeling them, but I can I can read a room. I can really, I think, this is my perception, but like, I think I'm really good at, sensing tension or like just other people's emotions when they're trying to hide them. But yeah, it's not always easy because there are times, specifically with my family, where like I've been talking about something and I didn't want to, but then I start crying and then they all kind of look at me like, oh my God, seriously? Because to them, it's not something to cry about. And those have been hard moments because in those moments I felt embarrassed. Thankfully, I never felt ashamed about myself, or I didn't suppress the emotions because, again, I literally can't. But sometimes it is hard when you are letting out emotions that other people wouldn't let out if they were in your situation. But the thing is, like, I'm just me. I'm me, you're you. We're different. We're all different. And we manage our emotions differently. But yes, I think we are feeling beings as human beings. We're not meant to be robots. We're not meant to be composed all the time. That doesn't make you a less mature adult in any way. It doesn't make you less rational as a person when you're feeling strong emotions. And I think it's important to talk about your emotions to friends and family and people you trust. Being emotional is not something to be ashamed about or to feel embarrassed over. You don't have to give anyone a reason if you're crying. You don't have to apologize. I mean, I still do very often if, I'm with someone, especially if it's someone like I don't know well and for whatever reason I start crying. It's very easy for me to go to, I'm so sorry. But it's something that I really think we have to work on, making sure we don't say too often. This all links also to vulnerability, right? In a society that tells us as adults that being emotional is not good, if you look at Brene Brown's work, I love her. I think I've mentioned her in like at least half of my videos so far. But Brene Brown talks about vulnerability and courage and how sharing tough times, sharing your emotions and pain with others is what links us as humans, what connects us to one another, and it's what's essential to being an open-hearted and fully well-adjusted human. It's important, I think, to get in touch with your emotions. You can't control them, that's the thing. With feelings and emotions, they're not something that you can control. So it's important to express them. And of course, depending on the emotion and how you need to express them, you obviously have to make sure that you do so in a healthy and safe way that doesn't hurt anyone. For example, with anger, you don't want to go around punching people. But it's not that the anger is the issue, it's how you react to the anger, for example. So you have to just learn to recognize the emotions you're feeling, ask yourself why. The question why is a very important question as human beings. And then to figure out the best way to process the emotion and work through it to find either a solution or a way to get back to, being happy or whatever. Obviously, if you can't afford it, therapy really helps because therapists are basically licensed teachers in dealing with emotions, and they can give you concrete tools to manage your emotions, to make sure you're expressing them, of course, but to manage how to react to them and how to go forward after you experience a certain emotion. So it's just really important, and I just want to reiterate that if you're someone like me, who I think I am an empath, if you feel things really, really deeply and strongly and you cry a lot, again, it's okay if you don't cry a lot. Doesn't mean that you're not an empath, but crying for me goes together with all this. I hear you, I see you, I feel you. I completely understand. I know it's hard sometimes. You feel like you should be able to hold things in certain situations, but honestly, don't. In the long run, it's much worse for our mental health and for our society's health to suppress things. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned something. And please comment below what your experience is with being an emotional person or being a crier or that sort of thing. I'd love to know if anyone out there is like me. I've met a couple people like me, but I'd love to know more. Make sure to like and share this video with friends and family. It would mean a lot to me. And again, make sure to follow me on social media. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can also still check out my blog. It's still up and online. All the links are below in the description box. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. You can do so right up there. You can also subscribe to my flute performance channel over here. And right up here is my latest video. Thank you so much for watching and have a Flutey Feminist day. Bye!